involve the case of the most serious form of West Nile, so get rid of your standing water. And sadly, the death toll from the storm now up to 26, some of which is due to the heat, some is due to carbon monoxide poisoning, others to the nursing home fatalities. So we'll have a lot more for you coming up in just a moment here on a special edition of the Eyewitness News at 4.
Good afternoon, and thanks for watching our extended coverage of the recovery from Hurricane Ida. I'm Katie Moore.
And I'm Karen Swenson. Let's start with some of the post-storm headlines. Entergy Louisiana has fallen short on its promise to restore power to 90% of Jefferson Parish by last night. By this morning, they said 46,000 customers were still in the dark, which is around 78% of the parish. We'll have more on the power restoration situation in just a moment.
St. John Parish leaders say 1 in 10 homes there was destroyed by Ida, and 6 in 10 had major damage. Also, UNO is going to resume classes on Monday.
The Orleans Parish Juvenile Court is back open as of today, and at Louis Armstrong Airport, things are slowly returning to normal with 65 departures scheduled for today. And some good news by way of the forecast, and that is the cold front we have been tracking.
It really did feel pretty good out there today. It's still warm, but we are getting some relief from the humidity, and we want to get over to your local weather expert, Chief Meteorologist Chris Franklin, for the latest on that. Chris, it feels pretty nice.
It does. All things considered, not bad outside. I did see a few folks complain, and it's still kind of hot. Well, it is still summer, and we are still in southeast Louisiana, so we can only do so much with these early season cold fronts, but it definitely helped to, 1, clear out the skies, no rain, no clouds around, and 2, did help to bring in the drier air. Looking at satellite, you can kind of see the earlier clouds as the cold front moved on through and bringing with it drier air. Dew points have been falling. Now, high temperatures, granted, mid to upper 80s, that is still hot, but an 89 degree, if we stop there, that is our average for this time of year. So it's not above average, nor is it below average, but with dew points in the 50s and low 60s, this is below average humidity for early September. And again, it is still summertime, but this drier air, now well in place, will continue moving in and last through Saturday. By Sunday, starting to feel the humidity coming back up a bit, but even Saturday, I don't think it's going to be a bad day. Our overnight temperatures, now this is in the metro area, only dropping into the lower 70s. On the North Shore and areas away from the city, easily falling into the low and mid 60s, and I think we'll even be a few degrees cooler than that by wake-up time tomorrow morning. Another cool morning is on the way for Saturday. As I mentioned, the humidity coming up by Sunday, more so into early next week. As we are watching a tropical wave right now, it looks like it may just increase our rain chances to start next week. We'll talk more about that in just a few minutes.
All right, Chris, thank you. Entergy continues to make progress restoring power, but failed to meet a big goal last night in Jefferson Parish. The electric utility promised to restore 90% of customers in the urban parts of Jefferson Parish by Wednesday, September 8th. This morning, Entergy Louisiana CEO Philip May acknowledged to our David Hammer that they fell short with about 78% of Jefferson Parish customers' power back on by 7 a.m.
David, I can give you the as of 7 a.m. is 46,000 roughly customers out in all of Jefferson. That includes the lower portions of Jefferson, including Grand Isle. I don't have a breakout without those areas in front of me at this time.
So it did not get to 90% in Jefferson, correct?
We're not at 90% in Jefferson. The 90% is for the greater New Orleans area, essentially right. New Orleans and Jefferson parishes.
Entergy did make significant progress across the area, though, restoring power to more than 85,000 customers yesterday alone. Some of those saw their power go out again today, but many of those were quickly restored. There are now fewer than 230,000 outages across Entergy's territory, down from about 900,000.
At the end of last week, the city shut down nearly a dozen senior living apartment complexes. People who do not have family to stay with were taken by buses to state shelters.
Of course, we remember that 5 people were found dead in the sweltering heat in their apartments, and today they were told they could go back to their homes. Meg Ferris joins us live at Christopher Inn in the Marigny with more on that. Meg.
That's right, Karen and Katie, and it was exactly 9 of the 10 apartment complexes, senior apartment complexes, that were back open, and people were told that they could go home. Now, the city said that the living conditions were unfit for seniors living in the heat without power. There were also problems because many of the buildings, no manager stayed on site, leaving the residents to make do on their own. And at one home, there was a problem or some sort of miscommunication. St. John Birchman's Manor on St. Anthony Street. Buses brought back around 24 of the people who live in those apartments, but this is one, it was one that wasn't supposed to be opened until tomorrow, and that made some of the people who live there upset and wondering how they're going to make ends meet.
So I want to know, how am I supposed to stay awake all night hungry when I got to wait till 9, 10 o'clock in the morning?
Our money is low, and the food stamp problem stinks because they put you through all of the rigmarole and you still don't get no food stamp.
And several of these senior homes are operated by the Archdiocese of New Orleans. Again today, like we have for the last few days, we have been trying to get in touch with someone to talk to us about the situation, but we have not heard back. Now we'll have much more and many more residents speak out at 5 o'clock. And then coming up at 6, we have the relative of one of those 5 people who passed away in the senior living facilities. Reporting live from Christopher Inn and the Marigny, Meg Farris, Eyewitness News. Back to you.
All right, still much more to come on that story. Thanks so much, Meg. Lafourche Parish was dealt a heavy blow by Ida's winds, and we got an update from parish officials there just a little while ago. President Robbie Miller says it has been tough, but they are making tremendous progress.
And then, of course, there's areas of the parish that are still hurting, that still have a lot of pain, and still have a long way to go, and we recognize that. I can assure you that this group, the group behind me, and the group of partners that we have working together, we are pushing, we are fighting in some cases, and we are doing everything we can to make sure that you will be fully recovered and that all the assistance and all the help that's available to you will be received. We're working very hard and encouraging FEMA to bring in more people, to bring in more resources, to make the process simpler, to make sure that you get everything you need to sign up and then to receive those benefits as necessary. We will not stop until you get what you deserve.
And FEMA is still working to get more supplies into parts of Lafourche Parish, and they are working with volunteers there to get help to the people in the hardest hit parts of that parish.
It is tough down there, and Lafourche Parish officials gave an update today about the power situation down there. Maria Aguilera joins us live now with the latest on that. Maria.
Here in Lafourche Parish, residents will be seeing more linemen working in the coming weeks, as you can see here behind me. Right now, about 50% of Thibodaux residents have power, but outside of that, only about 5% of the entire parish has gotten their power restored. Now, earlier in a news conference today, parish officials gave updates about what people can expect in the recovery process. In Lafourche, there is a lot of damage. There are 7 FEMA sites, and they've already registered more than 22,000 people, and they've approved $11 million to help them. Now, the biggest question is, when will power be restored? Entergy expects to have more than 2,000 linemen on the ground working to get power back up and running. Parish President Archie Chasson says he will hold him to that and also shared a message of hope.
As hard hit as we were from Golden Meadow to the houses that flooded in LaRose and to Zalman's and Kramer, you have a commitment from everybody standing up here that we're going to put the pieces back together and we're going to take care of our community. And we're going to do that as fast and hard as we can.
Entergy expects most Lafourche Parish residents to have their power restored by the 29th. Right now, a concern, though, is carbon monoxide poisoning. The fire department has received several calls, so they are encouraging residents to be careful as they're using those generators. For now, back to you.
All right, thank you so much, Maria. That is a message that we can't say enough. A third arrest has been made in the murders of 2 New Orleanians, including an off-duty NOPD officer who were visiting Houston last month. Houston police say 19-year-old Khalil Nelson is charged with capital murder. 2 arrests have already been made, and HPD is telling us Nelson was the last suspect they were looking for. The shootings happened at the Galleria at a restaurant there in August. One of the men killed was veteran New Orleans police officer Everett Briscoe. The other was Dyron Ricolfi, who went into a coma after the shooting, and he died several weeks later. Both men were members of the Zulu Social Aid and Pleasure Club.
Stay tuned to this special edition of the Eyewitness News at 4.
We're going to have much more on the recovery efforts after Ida. Up next.
An update on a story we brought you yesterday. Of course, we know that the long road to recovery in our area would not be possible without people helping people in our community going the extra mile.
Yeah, yesterday, remember we brought you that story about that Ponchatoula woman's home that got buried underneath trees during the storm? Well, after seeing our story, a nearby company answered her call for help. This is such a cool story. Allison Basil joins us live now to show us the progress on her house. Allison, I can't wait to see it.
Oh, it's incredible. I'll show you what they've been up to all day. Take a look at this giant pile of wood next to me. So we were in Sarah Hall's yard just 24 hours ago, and her property looked like, well, we were calling it a fallen forest. Now, finally, it looks like someone lives here. Take a look. You're seeing her entire backyard, which we could not even see yesterday. I didn't even believe there was a backyard here. And they also took a tree off of her shed. Now, tree removal crews did show up at 7 this morning, and they got to chopping. They spent about 8 hours clearing heavy trees from Hall's roof, shed, and carport, and not to mention the dozens of limbs and branches that covered her yard. Now, Hall tells me she got a call minutes after our story aired, like we said yesterday, from Ziegler's Tree Removal Company. Now, she's blown away by the swift response, and the back of the house is clear too, and we're going to take you back there coming up at 5. Live in Ponchatoula, Allison Basil, Eyewitness News.
That is so cool. We're seeing so many stories like that. Thank you so much, Allison, for giving us that update. It always gives people hope out there. Well, thousands of linemen from all over the country are in Louisiana working tirelessly to get our power back on.
These line workers are working in such tough conditions, especially with the heat and with stores closed and limited hotels. Many don't have food or to eat or a place to stay until now. This Facebook group was created on August 31st. We've told you about it before. It's called Feed Linemen, and you tell them, they tell us where they are, and then you can bring them food and water. It now has 25,000 members, and people are bringing the workers lunch, inviting them over for dinner, and in some cases even housing them. One family in Pearl River has 14 linemen staying with them.
They are super amazing. They're very kind. They're so respectful. So we have a 7-year-old little boy, and he loves Nerf guns. And so every single day they have Nerf war. So he is literally waiting at the garage with his Nerf gun, and they walk into the garage, and then it just starts, and they just all start shooting each other and running around the house. So it's a blast. But they really just are wonderful, wonderful guys.
Love it. Hear more from that family and from the woman who started the Facebook group coming up at 5.
And if there was any other positive news today, it's that the humidity did come down. Now, not exactly a fall feel during the day, I'll grant you. The temperatures are still getting into the upper 80s, but there is no heat index because a dew point of 59 means the humidity is far lower, at only 36%. And we needed this. Again, a little bit of relief. It is still summertime in southeast Louisiana. We can only get so cool with these seasonal cold fronts or early season cold fronts, but at least it cleared us out. No rainfall around anywhere. I thought maybe we'd see a couple of showers in along the coastline as the front pushed through, and we may have earlier today because when the front moved south, you can kind of see the clouds that were associated, and wasn't even that much. So it did help to sweep that moisture out, and at least for the next few days, we can enjoy some of the drier weather. You'll really feel it once the sun goes down this evening and by wake-up time tomorrow morning. All in the 80s outside this afternoon, and that's normal for this time of year. But what is not normal is this dry of an air mass with dew points in the 50s, low 60s. This is welcome for the next couple of days, and we only have it unfortunately for a couple of days, but this surge of cooler, drier air is going to keep with at least a little more pleasant feeling. I think for most of the weekend, by Sunday we'll start to feel those dew points coming back up a bit, but even then not uncomfortably so. Dew points as we started out the early morning hours were still in the mid 70s, and you can clearly see when that front started to move through as the dew points have been steadily dropping really all day today. We now have a dew point of 59 degrees, and that may drop another couple of degrees before we get into early tomorrow morning. But certainly starting out the day tomorrow with that drier air and cooler air. Saturday as well, another dry morning, and with clear skies that does allow for kind of optimal cooling, as cool as we can get in the early September days. But it does look like that will still be with us for Saturday. By Sunday, however, the dew points will start to come back up, upper 60s to back to around 70 degrees, and the humidity will continue to rise into early next week. Overnight temperatures going into tomorrow morning, low 60s, and even away from the city will be in the 60s, low 70s though in the metro area, but that is still very nice with that drier air staying in place. Our front is going to stay offshore, maybe becoming kind of a stationary boundary. May see some showers developing along that front, but as we get towards late Saturday, Sunday, that moisture starts to surge back in, and we're looking at probably some spotty showers returning as we get into Sunday. So less humid really through the weekend, a little bit more humid by Sunday, but even then not too bad, with some spotty storms, more scattered storms on the way for early next week, as we are going to be watching a tropical wave. Again, unfortunately, this is still the peak of hurricane season. Actually, the climatological peak is tomorrow, but September into early October is still the busiest part of the year. So we're not done yet, and we are going to be watching what is nothing at the moment near Honduras as that little wave tries to move into the Bay of Campeche and Western Gulf. Models had been indicating something trying to get going in that area, not necessarily an organized system, but a surge of tropical moisture, which unfortunately will be surging up toward the western and northwestern Gulf of Mexico. That will begin surging that moisture, or the surge of moisture will begin increasing our rain chances as we get into early next week. But it looks like the upper pattern is going to keep anything that tries to develop a little bit more to our west. As we look at the upper pattern, big ridge of high pressure is going to dominate, and notice the flow around that ridge is pushing anything from the Gulf. Now, this is going into Sunday toward the western part of the Gulf. So as that little wave tries to enter in the Gulf, we're still going to have a pattern kind of keeping whatever tries to develop to our west. Unfortunately, though, we're not going to get rid of that moisture surge. So rain chances coming up as we get into early next week. But enjoy the next couple of days while you can. Get as much work done outdoors as you can, as the weather is going to be, again, for early September, cooperative. Morning lows to start the day in the 60s and 70s. Really, again, just the 70s in the metro area. And if you're near the coast, water temperatures are still in the 80s, so it takes a little bit longer to cool down if you're near the water. 87 our high on Friday. Beautiful day on Saturday. Humidity starts to come back up with some spotty showers. Looking at kind of a cloudy, rainy couple of days, depending upon just how much moisture does surge our way, but at least it does help to keep our temperatures down a little bit. And then back to more scattered showers as we continue through next week.
So what's in a name?
All right, in New Orleans, one street is right in the middle of it all when it comes to Hurricane Ida, both in location and name. Tonight, Olivia Gino takes you there.
This street is about 500 feet long and has a name that right now is hard to forget.
If the streets of New Orleans could talk, what would they say?
Oh boy, here we go.
Their memories would fill pages.
Yeah, of course.
But their characters live between the lines.
It was constant from noon till midnight.
Or, in this case, at the corner.
I thought it was either going to be a very good omen or a very bad omen.
At the corner of Orleans Avenue and Ida Street.
My first thought was that maybe we would be spared, or the alternate was that, that we'd be the punching bag for the whole city.
This was Ida Street in the middle of the hurricane of the same name.
Harrowing. Yeah, absolutely.
But while its winds were tearing apart, Ida was bringing its neighbors together.
My neighbors and I, we came out, we cleaned up the street, we helped our neighbors down the street to kind of clean up everything around their business.
We got a little nickname. I'm gonna get some hats and all made, and to let everybody know that we wore, we wrote it out, and we're gonna wear it proud.
A lot of people still struggling, so you just help out as much as you can.
Because the one way we're getting out of this is with each other.
It's just an opportunity to really get to know your neighbors and to participate in that community building.
How about your family?
On Ida Street.
That's it, yeah.
Olivia Eugenio, Eyewitness News.
And we will be right back right after this short break.
Keeping a very close eye on COVID numbers in Louisiana as we recover from Ida.
Yeah, the Department of Health is saying that there are about 1,800 COVID-19 patients in the hospital right now statewide. That's a drop of a few dozen since yesterday. More than 4,900 new cases were reported in the last 24 hours and 77 new deaths.
Now, President Biden is speaking later this afternoon about the surge in COVID cases nationwide, unveiling a 6-point plan to combat the latest phase of the pandemic. Getting more people vaccinated is expected to be the biggest part of the plan, and Skylar Henry has more details from the White House.
President Biden has signed an executive order requiring all federal workers be vaccinated as part of his new strategy to combat the coronavirus.
If a federal worker fails to comply, they will go through the standard HR process, which includes counseling and face disciplinary action, face progressive disciplinary action.
In addition to increasing vaccination rates, the plan he's announcing today includes more protections for vaccinated Americans, increased testing and masking requirements, improving care for people with the virus, protecting the economic recovery, and keeping schools safely open.
There are, of course, 80 million unvaccinated Americans at this point in time. We want to reduce that number, decrease hospitalizations and deaths, and allow our children to go to school safely.
President Biden isn't expected to issue a mandate requiring all Americans to be vaccinated, but the White House is encouraging businesses and local governments to take that step.
The federal workforce is one of the largest in the country, and we would like to be a model to what we think other businesses and organizations should do around the country.
The Los Angeles School Board is expected to vote on a new measure today requiring students 12 and older be vaccinated in order to attend in-person classes.
That's why there isn't measles and mumps and rubella in our schools, because we vaccinate and we require it. It's a mandate. This is a mandate to save lives.
Nationwide, available data shows more than 252,000 children tested positive in the last week, accounting for more than a quarter of all new cases. But some parents are protesting against school mandates.
It's a violation against this nation.
And lawsuits challenging the safety measures are reaching the courts.
I don't know why the masks have politics around it.
A judge in Florida recently ruled Governor Ron DeSantis cannot block schools from requiring students to wear masks. Skyler Henry, CBS News, the White House.
Now, the Florida judge who ruled against the ban on masks cited the Delta variant, saying it's more infectious to children. The state of Florida is appealing that judge's ruling.
A U.S. official confirms the Taliban has agreed to allow 200 people, Americans and other foreigners, to leave Afghanistan. The first international passenger flight departed from Kabul today, more than a week after the last American troops left the country. The flight marked progress in talks between the U.S. and Afghanistan's new Taliban leaders since the group took power last month. Earlier this week, Secretary of State Blinken said it was believed that there were around 100 Americans still wanting to leave the country. It is unclear how many Afghan allies will be able to get out. CBS News confirms another Qatar Air charter flight out of Kabul is in the works for Friday.
All right, we're going to be right back with more coverage of the recovery from Hurricane Ida.
So there's been a lot of information that's coming in by the minute, the information that you need in order to recover from Ida.
Yeah, Jade Cunningham has been monitoring social media pages and emails and has some updates. Jade.
Yeah, you guys are absolutely right. There's so much being shared right now. So let's start with a quick resource for those who evacuated to Destin, Florida, specifically with families with high school students. Destin High School announced on their Facebook page they're accepting any 9th, 10th, or 11th grader who's been displaced by Hurricane Ida. They wrote in part, Louisiana visitors have shown Destin some serious love. Now it's time for us to return the favor. Parents can download an application at destinhighschool.org. And speaking of evacuees, if a family member or someone you know evacuated to a state-run shelter, you want to write this number down, 225-342-2727. You can call that number to try and see where your family, loved ones are and connect with them. A lot of people who left the area may be also wondering about their pets, or maybe they lost a pet at some point over the last 2 weeks. The Louisiana SPCA has taken in more than 180 animals. They all can be seen at louisianaspca.org/strays. Now, if you see your pet's photo, you can call the number there on your screen for help. And no owners have 3 days, and 3 days only, to get their pet before they become adoptable. And really fast, we need to give an update on the Sewerage and Water Board. Officials have said from the beginning that although water has been safe, people needed to limit their usage. But this morning, they announced some good news. Residents can wash and flush as needed. We're going to have more updates coming up at 5, including what you need to know so you aren't scammed by a contractor, COVID testing, and the closure of a major roadway that may cause some delays. Guys.
All right, great stuff. Thank you, Jade. Officials say Hurricane Ida did not damage any of the levees in Orleans and Jefferson parishes.
Of course, they are going to take a closer look to see if any improvements can be made before the next storm hits. Hate to talk like that, but good to be prepared. Duke Carter reports.
Leaders with the Southeast Flood Protection Authority East have said there is no damage to the levee protection system. And so now the organizations say the next step is to make sure that they're doing assessments to better prepare for the next storm.
It's a picturesque scene on Lakeshore Drive now that Ida is long gone. Ducks are enjoying the water and people are out. Some have decided to work out.
The water's calm, it's tranquilizing, you know, it's nice to see some kind of calm scenes.
James Wood is one of many people enjoying the lakefront views while visiting from Luling. And while visiting the city, he saw something familiar, the levee, and credits them for doing their job and protecting people's homes when Ida hit.
Doesn't look like any damage on it. I think it's doing its job.
I am excited to report that the levees performed beautifully.
Kelly Chandler is the regional director for the Southeast Flood Protection Authority East. The organization oversees nearly 200 miles of levees as well as flood walls, flood gates, and pumping stations that protects both Orleans and Jefferson parishes.
We've gone out and done assessments. We will be finishing up those assessments today along with CPRA. We have found no damage to the levees, which is great news.
Chandler says now after the storm hit, contractors are to remove the debris from the levees to ensure they are functioning properly. And while contractors do that, leaders with the organization say they are now assessing to make sure levee protection system is better for the next storm that could impact the area.
Definitely the intensity was very strong. The storm surge wasn't quite as big as Katrina, but it did have a storm surge. It hit a little bit different than Katrina, which makes it a difference as far as the direction of the storm.
Efforts to make sure people, businesses, and lives are safe when a storm hits Orleans and Jefferson parishes.
One step at a time, that's all, you know, it's all we could do.
Leaders with the organization say all of the flood gates and flood walls have reopened. And so now the next step is to assess to make sure they are ready for the next storm. We're now reporting Duke Carter, Eyewitness News.
All right, Governor Edwards gave another update to the state's Ida response less than an hour ago.
Yeah, he addressed that many Louisiana residents still without power. It is such a huge issue.
While much progress has been made, there's still a significant number of people without power. The Public Service Commission is reporting 271,718 power outages remaining in Louisiana. Now, the good news is that's about 75% restoration of the 1.1 million outages that were reported at the peak. But if you're one of those 271,000 households, and really those are households and businesses, then we know that has not been available to you yet, and we're going to continue to work as fast as we can to speed relief. Not just the power restoration, but all of the things that you need, whether it's food, water, ice, so forth, until that power is restored.
All right, and we're going to be right back right after this short break. So WWL-TV has partnered with the United Way of Southeast Louisiana and the Saints to help raise money and collect supplies for our neighbors in need.
Sharice Gibson spoke with linebacker Demario Davis to discuss why the team wanted to get involved and to share his message of hope.
You've gotten a lot of the other captains that play along with you on the New Orleans Saints to join in on this effort. I mean, was that a hard task, or did they immediately jump in and say they wanted to help?
Yeah, everybody was already all hands on deck. We have a tremendous group of leaders just trying to figure out how can we have the most impact, and how can we collaborate our efforts together, and how can we work with people such as United Way, who have such credibility in the community, who've done real work for a long time.
Why that particular organization? There's so many out there.
The biggest reason you work with United Way is because not only do they have the credibility and experience of doing it so long, but they also know how to measure impact. So they do a good job of doing awareness on the front end, of realizing who needs the help, what areas are going to be most impacted maybe by their prior condition, and then understanding how to outsource efforts in a way that's going to have the biggest impact.
If you could share a message of inspiration for everyone here that'll be watching and, of course, donating and receiving some of those donations.
We're resilient people, and everybody that lives here understands that. And so there's no question, no doubt that we're going to recover from this, that we're going to rebuild from this. We just kind of have to work together, go through it, and we're going to see it to the other side. And so if it had to happen to anybody, there's no one more prepared and built for it than this community. And so we're going to be okay.
All right, the Saints are always there to inspire us. That was Cherise Gibson reporting. If you'd like to help the United Way of Southeast Louisiana, here are some things that they need: water and sports drinks, formula, baby supplies, toiletries, cleaning and rebuilding supplies. But what they don't need, at the moment, they are not accepting food or clothing. So to find the exact drop-off locations or for a more detailed list of what they need, scan the QR code on your screen or go to unitedwaysela.org/Ida Relief.
The Saints will be home field, and it'll be in Jacksonville this weekend. And the team shared a video of their freshly painted end zone today. It's going to make it feel a little more like home. And coming up tonight at 6:30, we have a preview of the matchup, something to take your mind off of Ida. Don't miss our Eye on the Black and Gold Saints special with Eyewitness Sports Director Doug Mouton. That's coming up tonight at 6.
And Mindy, we're a lot concerned about that moving over Jacksonville, is already moving away from the east coast of Florida. So improving weather there and gorgeous weather here. Lots of sunshine. That drier air has definitely moved in. Now, again, some folks have said, well, it's still hot. Well, it's still summer, but with the lower humidity, there is no heat index. So our 89 degrees feels like it's supposed to. Humidity is only at 36%, and winds out of the north at 9, and they'll likely pick up a little bit during the overnight period. We are dry finally on radar. So not only did we get rid of the humidity, we got rid of our rain chances, and we have been under mostly clear skies all day. You did see a little bit of passing cloud cover as that front moved through earlier in the day, but otherwise it has been picture perfect with temperatures in the 80s. Yes, that is still hot, but 89 degrees. Our current temperature is our normal high for this time of year. Winds out of the north, not particularly strong right now, but we'll likely see them pick up a little bit during the overnight hours and may see a little bit of a chop on the lake as well as our offshore waters. Dew points are in the 50s and 60s, and this air mass will hang around through tomorrow. Most of the day Saturday. By Sunday, though, the muggies unfortunately will start to return. As I mentioned, it is still summertime, but that drier air is definitely being felt all across the Gulf South, and that is going to keep us feeling at least a little bit nicer during the day. And in the evenings and mornings, a little cooler. Dew points have been steadily dropping throughout the day. We're now at 59 degrees, and we'll probably stay in the 50s through the overnight. And dew points tomorrow morning will be in the 50s and low 60s, and that coupled with clear skies will allow temperatures to get a bit cooler. And I will call it cool on the North Shore as you drop into the low 60s. Again, Saturday morning, that dry air hanging around. That'll be with us throughout the day Saturday, but notice by late Saturday, early Sunday morning, some of that Gulf moisture will begin to make a comeback. Tomorrow morning temperatures, low 60s and then mid 60s south of the lake, away from the city. The metro area and down toward the coast, temperatures will likely still be in the 70s, only because of the influences of the lake and as well as the Gulf. Water temperatures are in the 80s. It really can't get very cool there. But with this front now offshore, any real rainfall over the next several days will stay right along that boundary, and we will remain under sunny skies with high pressure that is built in. Unfortunately, as I said, that won't last forever, as the moisture and rainfall will start to make a return by Sunday, and then into Monday, we may be watching a tropical wave. But next couple of days, very nice. Low humidity. Some spotty storms begin to return by Sunday. Better chance of rain early next week as a tropical wave will start moving our way. Now, not something you want to hear, but we are still very much at the climatological peak of hurricane season. In fact, tomorrow, September 10th, is the peak of the season. But all of September and even going into early October is still very much the heart of the season. So we're not done yet, even though we're done with Ida. Hopefully statistics will be in our favor and we won't see anything else. But we are watching a little wave that is over Honduras right now. It's going to be moving across the Yucatan, maybe south of that, and eventually moving into the Bay of Campeche Western Gulf. Now, the chance of development right now from the Hurricane Center is very low, and most of the models are not very bullish with any kind of development. All we're looking at right now as things stand would be this surge of tropical moisture headed our way for early next week. That would increase our cloud cover and increase the rainfall. Again, not something that we want to have to deal with the recovery efforts, but at the moment it looks like anything that were to try and form would likely stay well to our west. The reason is, over the next couple of days, we're going to have this big ridge of high pressure which is going to kind of elongate across the central United States. That pattern going into the end of the weekend keeps the flow over the Gulf pushing to the west. So that means anything that tries to get into the Gulf is getting pushed a little bit more to the west. Now, as we get into the early part of next week, that does kind of open us up for maybe some of that moisture, but it still looks like anything that were to try and form would be more into Mexico or Texas. Right now, all it looks like would be rainfall. I'm not going to go through the rainfall total potential because there's still so much uncertainty, but right now it's looking like a couple of wet days Monday and Tuesday. Next few days, however, very pleasant. Low humid air, high temperatures, mid-upper 80s, which is near or just below normal. Can't complain about that, especially with drier air. Some spotty showers by Sunday, and then we're back to scattered showers and thunderstorms by the middle to end of next week.
River parishes like St. Charles are in desperate need of help and supplies, and they are getting a boost from strangers on social media.
And a TikToker from Luling who has turned his platform into philanthropy. Devin brought a lot of reports.
There's no power, no drinkable water, and cell phone service is spotty here in St. Charles Parish. But if you ask Eric DeSoto, the connections here have never been stronger.
On every street of every neighborhood in St. Charles Parish, there are piles of personal effects, evidence of the lives upended by Hurricane Ida.
Just got blown down. It tore the back half of the roof off.
Eric DeSoto's house will have to be gutted.
All I can think about is like sofas where we used to watch TV as a family, beds where it was supposed to be like your resting place.
But DeSoto, or E-Rock as he's known on TikTok, has spent the last week helping those worse off.
There's no ifs, ands, or buts. You tell me if you need something and I'm bringing it to you. So people started messaging me, messaging other people in the neighborhood.
We first introduced you to E-Rock last November when he went viral for teaching TikTok some good old-fashioned Cajun French.
Hey, couillon.
He's now amassed more than 300,000 followers, virtual friends who became a real-life lifeline.
My phone blings and I got a PayPal. Then my phone bings again and I got a Venmo. And I told my wife, I was like, people are sending me money.
Couillon crew, coming through. Hey, couillon.
In the last 10 days, his Couillon crew has sent him more than $25,000 to help the people of St. Charles Parish. He drove a U-Haul of supplies back from Houston.
I absolutely cannot thank y'all enough for the generosity, the kind words.
Says he's handed out $100 Home Depot gift cards, tarped up roofs.
I'm tired. It's hot out here.
And become a supply hub for the neighborhood.
This is Mr. Guillory.
Hello, couillons. How y'all doing today?
He was having some generator troubles and his generator finally just crapped out.
A display of Louisiana love thanks to his following built on Louisiana culture.
I keep asking myself, like, why me? But then when I do help everybody else and I can raise all the money and all this stuff, then I realize it's not why me. It's like, why not me, right?
The harder question to answer, though, is when people ask why he chooses to stay here. For a family who came back to their damaged home already tarped up by friends, the answer has never been more obvious.
Because it is Louisiana. Because my house is destroyed. And I know that every single person that I know would be doing the same thing I'm doing. I just happen to have TikTok. That's all. That's the only difference. It's just entirely too powerful. I don't really want to leave.
DeSoto is teaming up with United Way St. Charles to coordinate bigger distributions, but is still collecting donations on his own. If you'd like to help, we have his PayPal and his Venmo information on our website, WWLTV.com. In Luling, Devin Bartolotta, Eyewitness News.
Great story. And now some breaking social media news. Facebook is releasing a pair of sunglasses through a partnership with Ray-Ban.
The glasses have a video camera and they're connected to the internet, so you can upload clips to Facebook using a special app. You can also make calls and listen to music using those glasses, and many are worried about privacy. Facebook says they're only collecting the information they need to make the glasses function. It's expected to be the first device in a whole range of wearable gadgets coming from Facebook in the future.
All right, as we head to break, we have a quick reminder to stick around for our Eye on the Black and Gold Saint special that is coming up at 6:30 tonight.
It sure is. Coming up, we have another extended edition of the Eyewitness News at 5 for you, though, as we continue to cover the recovery from Hurricane Ida.
Were you flicking? I was like,
yes.
Did you just flick?
It was like in my face.
That's the...
Live from WWL-TV, this is the Eyewitness News at 5.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks for watching. I'm Katie Moore.
And I'm Karen Swenson. It has now been 11 days since Ida made landfall, and we have been following updates on the recovery around the area since the storm.
Yeah, here are some of the latest things that you need to know tonight. 6 of the 8 transmission lines in New Orleans that were destroyed during Hurricane Ida have been repaired.
Several senior living facilities shut down after the storm have reopened, and today many residents were able to go home.
A man who police believe killed an evacuee from New Orleans in North Carolina is in jail.
And power has been restored to about 50% of the homes in hard-hit Thibodaux, but the rest of Lafourche Parish still lagging behind. We're going to get more in just a moment, but first let's get to Chris Franklin, who has some good news about the forecast.
Yes, very good news. It is a little bit more comfortable outside. Dew points came way down. Yes, it is still hot, highs in the upper 80s today, but with the drier air in place, certainly doesn't feel like early September, and beautiful blue sky outside. We needed a day like today. Now, yeah, maybe it would have been a little bit more optimal had the temperatures come down a bit, but we'll take what we can get. We are still very much in summer, and visible satellite showing those clouds that kind of passed through with the front didn't even really trigger any rainfall. Temperatures are in the 80s, and that's with bright sunshine. Temperatures did not get into the 90s today, and dew points in the 50s and low 60s does make it feel far more comfortable, and that dry air mass is going to stay around for the next couple of days. And with clear skies overnight tonight, that will allow temperatures to drop. Now, this says South Shore in the low 70s. It really is just for the metro area, because if you're away from the city, West Bank, River Parishes will be getting into the 60s overnight, and certainly into the 60s. North Shore temperatures will be dropping into the low 60s overnight and by early tomorrow morning. We are watching the tropics, not too concerned about anything really developing, but a system that may send some moisture and rainfall our way by early next week. We'll talk more about that in just a few minutes.
All right, Chris, thank you. Well, Entergy has restored power to the vast majority of customers in the metro area 11 days after Hurricane Ida.
From the moment the winds died down, investigative reporter David Hammer's been asking Entergy some tough questions about the total failure of its transmission system. And now state and local government regulators are asking some of those same questions.
We have continued to press Entergy to explain the catastrophic transmission failure it experienced in Hurricane Ida when the storm knocked out all 8 high-voltage lines carrying electricity into the New Orleans area. Here's my exchange with Entergy Louisiana CEO Philip May during a conference call Thursday morning.
Could you go down the list of what those failures were on those 8 corridors coming in?
I can get that for you, David. I can tell you generally what it is. We had trees on lines, oftentimes trees outside of a right-of-way blown into the transmission system. We had additional debris on line. We had towers that failed just from wind fields and so forth.
The chairman of the elected state board that regulates Entergy outside the city of New Orleans wants to know more, too.
The money that they'd set aside for transmission monitoring upgrades that they said they were going to allocate to that, did they, and how?
Louisiana Public Service Commission Chairman Dr. Craig Green sent this letter to President Joe Biden, asking him to dedicate federal money to strengthen Entergy's grid.
But what does the most resilient transmission grid look like, and how much will it cost? Is the perfect storm that it knocked out all 8? I can't tell you more until we look into it as to why.
Entergy reports spending $4.2 billion since 2014 on expanding its transmission system. May says newly built or restored towers and wires, as well as strengthened substations where electricity is converted for distribution to homes and businesses, are engineered to withstand 150-mile-per-hour winds. The highest gusts measured by the National Weather Service in Dulac only reached 120 knots or 138 miles per hour. And what about this major transmission tower in Avondale? It collapsed in winds nowhere close to that. Next door in Wagaman, the National Weather Service reported maximum winds of 80 knots or 92 miles per hour. We found the tower the day after Ida riddled with rust. So why wasn't it upgraded?
Those are some of the questions we're going to ask. I know in Laura, the ones when they replaced the transmission structures, they were replaced with more modern, more sturdy, more wind-resistant ones. So the analysis will be, well, why wasn't that one?
We asked that very question to Entergy's May. He said the tower was inspected at the end of last year and didn't need any upgrades.
So like that tower
was very robustly engineered. We're not going to go in and proactively replace a tower like that. I mean, that is an enormously expensive engineered structure.
Entergy's New Orleans subsidiary is regulated by the New Orleans City Council. Council President Helena Moreno said she wants to make sure customers are not stuck with a bill for equipment failures Entergy could have prevented.
I think that at times the company may think that their regulator should be an additional mouthpiece for them, but that is not our role. Our role is to watch out for the people of this city. And so that's what we on this council will continue to do.
Both Green and Moreno sent Entergy letters last week demanding more accountability, something both say they'll be demanding next year when the utility presents the bill for Hurricane Ida restoration. David Hammer, Eyewitness News.
6 of those 8 transmission lines, again, that were lost in Hurricane Ida have been restored, and Entergy did provide some more information on all of that this afternoon.
Entergy says there are 1,500 poles or towers supporting those transmission lines, and the company says all but 12 survived the storm intact. 7 of them were destroyed, 5 of them were damaged. At the end of last week, the city shut down nearly a dozen senior living apartment complexes, and people who did not have family to stay with were taken by buses to state shelters. 5 people were found dead in the sweltering heat in their apartments, and today, those who survived got a chance to go back to their homes. Meg Ferris joins us live at Christopher Inn in the Marigny with what happened. Meg?
And Karen, today we went to 3 of those 10 homes to see people moving back in. Some were very happy to move back in. Others told us of the bad memories they had from the week before. But at least one place brought residents back a day too soon. These 2 men were brought back to St. John Birchman's Manor on St. Anthony Street by bus. They were told it was reopening today, but they were told it really won't be open until Friday morning at 9.
This is a pool A situation where you got it right now. If they weren't ready for us to come back, they shouldn't have brought us back so early.
How is that doing me a favor by letting me back a day earlier when they didn't get me away from here early enough? What's that thing over there, snap?
The men were let in, but when they left to get something to eat, they found the gate not working and had to wait a long time to get someone to let them back in.
So I want to know, how am I supposed to stay awake all night hungry when I got to wait till 9, 10 o'clock in the morning?
Over at St. Martin's Manor on North Johnson, people were finally glad to be home.
I really want to be back home. I told my fiancée that I am going to go home and cook me some beans and rice because I really want to eat some of our New Orleans style food.
Well, I'm excited because I miss being at my own house. You know, I was lucky enough to have family that took us in.
But all of them had stories of being left to care for each other without management staying on site. The apartments were so hot, this man put a blanket down on the concrete of the 5th floor balcony against the railing to try to sleep.
They should be here to see that everybody's okay. We all pitch in and help each other. We do that all the time, you know, we look out for each other.
Management came in eventually, but no, they weren't there from the beginning.
They're glad the city's taking notice and planning stricter ordinances for future storms.
Oh, I'm happy. You know, that they see what's going on with the senior citizens, because we've got quite a few senior facilities that need help, you know, and we need somebody with us all the time. I was glad to hear that from now on that they will have management in the building at all times, which we didn't have before.
And for days now since this story broke, we've been contacting or trying to contact the Archdiocese of New Orleans. They operate several of the 10 senior apartment complexes, and we have not heard back. Now, coming up exclusively at 6 o'clock, we talked to the family members of one of those 5 people who died in apartment complexes, who flew in from Memphis to collect his gatherings. Reporting live from the Marigny, Meg Ferris, Eyewitness News.
All right, let's hope we hear from the Archdiocese soon. Thank you, Meg. All right, an update to a story we brought you yesterday. An arrest has been made in the murder of a New Orleans woman who evacuated to North Carolina. Police believe Malik Moore killed Gabrielle Allnut. She was found dead in Charlotte's Arts and Entertainment District on Sunday. Allnut was an artist and taught at the New Orleans Academy of Fine Arts. She went to Charlotte before Ida hit. Moore is being held without bond. He's also charged in the death of a 21-year-old Tennessee student in the same area around the same time.
Whitney Plantation in Wallace, Louisiana, saw significant damage from Hurricane Ida. Known for its interpretation of life through the eyes of the formerly enslaved, it's grown in popularity. Officials there say hundreds of thousands have traveled to Wallace to tour the grounds. Dr. Joy Banner, Director of Communications at Whitney, says the damage was heartbreaking to see and the buildings are almost impossible to replace.
It is heart-wrenching, and we put a lot of love into this place, and it's so important for us to, tell the story, of our ancestors, and being part of a descendant community. Whitney is not only, a place of education, but our roots are here. These are sacred grounds to us. And to have, one of these plantations finally, focus on our ancestors and have this mission that was so important for us and so important for the community. And having 100,000 people come into Wallace, and understand not only, our ancestors, but the work and the labor of all enslaved people was just so important. Yeah. And, to walk around and you can't replace these buildings. No. Once they're gone, if you don't save them, then they're irreplaceable. So it's just, it's difficult, but it could have been so much worse.
So coming up on the Eyewitness News at 6, anchor Sharice Gibson is taking a tour of the damage and shares how Dr. Banner rode out the storm in the unlikeliest of places. Well, here is something that is going to make you smile. Yesterday, we told you about a Ponchatoula woman whose property and home were buried under trees during the storm.
Yeah, she told us she wasn't able to find anyone to help her clear them, but soon after that story aired, a nearby company answered her call. Allison Basil tells us how quick the response was.
Yes, guys, in a matter of hours. So we're here at her property off of Highway 445 in Ponchatoula, and in those hours, this property has done a complete 180. Now, yesterday, we brought you to the back of the house. The roof had a heavy tree on top, and debris and limbs covered the yard. You see some of those cut down now, but take a look out back now. Everything is clear. It's clear off of the top of the roof. The roof's even tarped. Hall tells me she got a call minutes after our story aired yesterday from Ziegler's tree removal company that they wanted to help. The crew showed up at 7 this morning, and they got to chopping. They spent about 8 hours, we're told, and we saw getting heavy trees off Hall's roof. They did that nonstop, also got trees off the shed and the carport. And the tree fell on Hall's property, all of them, 11 days ago. But now today, she can finally start moving past the storm. So coming up at 6, we're going to show you how Hall is paying it forward. Live in Ponchatoula, Allison Basil, Eyewitness News.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you, Allison. It takes so much work to get those trees off, and it's amazing that they were able to do that for her. Thanks again. Well, many lost pets were found after Hurricane Ida.
And if you're a runaway, got picked up by a shelter, you might be running out of time to get it back. How long you have before they're put up for adoption?
And later, they've been helping us since the storm, and now you can help them. How local families are feeding, housing, and even saying thanks to the people getting our lights and power back on. Local shelters picked up many of the dogs and cats who ran away during and after Hurricane Ida.
And if your pet was one of them, you may only have a few days to pick them up before they're put up for adoption. The Louisiana SPCA says the 3-day holding period for strays picked up in New Orleans started yesterday. That period is 5 days in Plaquemines Parish. After that, the pet becomes legally the property of the shelter.
The SPCA has set up a page on its website to show the animals picked up as strays. You're looking at it right now. This is what it looks like when you go to it. If you just go to louisianaspca.org/strays, you can see if your pet is there.
All right, a lot of information is being shared by parish leaders all over Southeast Louisiana. Jade Cunningham has been monitoring social media and emails and gives us some updates that could affect you.
Yeah, there's a lot of information that could affect people right now. And a lot of people, of course, have been asking on social media about COVID testing and vaccines. And we found out LCMC Health is reinstating locations where people can get these kinds of services. You can call their nurse hotline at 504-290-5200 for information and to make an appointment if needed. It's open from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. That hotline is. Also, FYI, there's a vaccine clinic open at the New Orleans East Hospital at Toro's Uptown location and UMC. And then LCMC Urgent Cares in Clearview, Lakeview, and Marrero will offer testing as well. You can actually call those locations ahead of time for information. If you're out on I-10 late tonight, you may need to plan accordingly. Now, starting at midnight, both directions will be closed from Williams to Loyola, so Entergy can run transmission lines across the interstate. Then at 2 a.m., both directions will be closed from Clearview to Causeway. Now, again, it's late, but if you're out for whatever reason at that time, just plan accordingly. And a lot of people are now in the process of trying to find someone or a company to do repairs. And it's important you do your research first so you don't get scammed, so you don't become a victim. Some tips from authorities include to get at least 3 different quotes for the job, ask for references, and get everything in writing. Also, pay with a credit card. Get a receipt. That's so important. Get a receipt. And never, ever pay in full up front. You can also search the contractor's business at bbb.org. And these are just some tidbits that may be of importance to you. We are continuously updating our website with that information and with other information as well. You can go to wwltv.com for the latest.
A very much improved day today. Didn't have any rainfall, didn't have any cloud cover, and we didn't really have the high humidity. Temperatures have been a little more comfortable because of that. 88 degrees, yes. We got into the mid-upper 80s. It's still summertime, but dew points have been in the 50s, low 60s. Humidity is only at 39%, and winds out of the north at 8 miles an hour, and a northerly wind will stay with us through the day tomorrow. Nothing on radar. Didn't really have any showers as the frontal boundary moved through. Saw a little bit of passing clouds with that front, but otherwise we have been under mostly sunny skies all day today. In the mid and upper 80s outside at the moment. No one really got into the low 90s, which was definitely a blessing. Not to mention the fact that, yes, in the upper 80s, but when you factor in the lower humidity, it at least feels more comfortable. Winds out of the north. Winds have been fairly light. They may pick up a little bit during the overnight. Otherwise, not a bad night tonight. And with that increasing wind, that just means a reinforcement of the dry air, which is already fairly low with dew points in the 50s and low 60s. Not something you see very often in the south at this time of the year. We're still very much in the summer. And dew points 40s and 50s up in North Louisiana. We'll take the 50s and 60s if that sticks around and means another couple of very nice days. And the dew points really starting from earlier this morning. If you were up before daybreak, dew points had still been in the low mid 70s. Then they started to drop once that front moved on through, and they've been dropping ever since. Not just a constant drop with the dew points, but at least we will likely see dew points staying in the 50s, low 60s overnight and by early tomorrow morning, which means tomorrow morning will be a much cooler start to the day, and we're looking at some low 60s on the North Shore. Dew points remain low through the day going into Saturday morning and into Saturday, but then by late Saturday night And into Sunday, the dew points, the humidity will begin to be on the rise, and then more of the typical early September muggies will start coming back. Check out the temperature forecast for tomorrow morning and expect similar temperatures for Saturday morning. Low 60s on the North Shore. In the metro area or near the coast, you'll find temperatures in the 70s. But even away from the city, you're going to be in the 60s, even on the South Shore overnight tonight, with that drier air having moved in and the frontal boundary down to our south. Now, the front is stalled, and we'll see some shower development along that frontal boundary, but otherwise not going to see the moisture coming back in until late Saturday. Sunday, clouds will start increasing, and more Gulf moisture will start working its way in, with also the chance for some spotty showers Sunday. A better chance of rain, though, as we get into early next week, as we'll be keeping a close watch on a tropical wave. Now, not something you want to hear, but we are still very much in the heart of hurricane season. And in fact, tomorrow, the 10th, is the official peak of the season. However, all of September and into early October, although Zeta kind of extended that for us into late October, is still very much a busy part of the season. So we're not done with the season just yet, but hopefully, statistically speaking, we should be done. But we're still watching a few areas. Nothing really close by that looks to be a major threat. There is a wave being highlighted by the Hurricane Center with a 30% chance of development basically by the time it gets into the Yucatan or over the Yucatan into the Bay of Campeche or western Gulf of Mexico. Right now, the models are not very aggressive with developing anything. All they're doing is indicating that this surge of tropical moisture will start heading our way, which will begin increasing our rain chances. Really, neither the Euro or the GFS is very aggressive with developing something. The Euro does try and have a closed off low kind of moving into South Texas and then moving inland, whereas the GFS just kind of has a lot of rainfall. Really, both are just indicating kind of a surge of Gulf moisture and rain moving our way by early next week. But what should block anything from coming our way is as we get toward the end of the weekend, big ridge of high pressure is really going to keep more of a northwesterly and westerly flow over the Gulf of Mexico, which is why the models that do anything with this wave keep it along the coast of Florida or coast of Mexico or Texas as a primarily big rainmaker. But again, we're probably not going to get out of that surge of moisture, as some of that will likely come our way by early next week, increasing clouds and also increasing rainfall. You knew the dry weather couldn't last. It is early September after all. Temperatures tomorrow, high of 87 degrees and a cool couple of mornings, 60s, low 70s for tomorrow and Saturday morning. By Sunday, Gulf moisture starts to return, some spotty showers and thunderstorms, better rain chances, and likely staying under mostly cloudy skies with that moisture from the tropics by Monday and Tuesday, then kind of a more typical pattern as we continue through the middle to end of next week.
The Saints traded to get a cornerback from Houston yesterday, and the price, as it turns out, was not excessively steep. Bradley Roby will cost the Saints a third-round pick in next year's draft and then a conditional pick in 2023. And the Texans will actually pay the lion's share of Roby's salary this season. That's certainly a fair price for the Saints. They did not overpay for Roby. And his numbers, the quarterback rating against him, are roughly equivalent to Janoris Jenkins' numbers in his time in New Orleans. So it certainly seems like a good fit. The problem is Roby won't help this week. He's serving a one-game NFL suspension, but in week 2, it seems likely that he'll step in and start. The team went through another Fort Worth practice today. They're on TCU's campus. Alvin Kamara was asked if being in Texas together has brought the team closer.
I'd rather be in New Orleans. I'd rather be in New Orleans. I mean, I feel like we got a close locker room regardless of if we're locked in a hotel than if we're at home and in New Orleans, like regular scheduled program. But I mean, I don't really care for the Dallas thing and TCU and all that. Beautiful facilities. Thankful that we could be here. You know, of course, circumstance. You know, we got to be here. But I mean, I'm ready to go home.
I think a lot of people in the New Orleans area can relate to that. No Ken Crawley again today. Expect Ricky Paulson and Debo to play a lot Sunday against the Packers. And no Traquan Smith, which hurts. Don't forget our Eye on the Black and Gold special, 6:30 tonight here on Channel 4. And we're back with more in a minute.
Some of the most visible heroes in the wake of Ida have been those line workers. They have spent every day and night restoring our power. We need them, but they also need us more than we realize. Erica Ferrando shows us how a Facebook post turned into a major movement to help the linemen.
When 14 linemen from Tennessee came down to Louisiana to restore power, they didn't know they were also signing up for Nerf wars with a 7-year-old.
He is literally waiting at the garage with his Nerf gun, and they walk into the garage and then it just starts.
For the past 5 days, Summer and Christopher Duhan have been housing these 14 linemen in their Pearl River home.
We're like, welcome home!
Hotel rooms are few and far between, and stores have been closed, so even those helping us have needed a little help.
Someone made a comment about linemen not being fed or having no place to sleep at night. So I commented, why doesn't somebody start a group page? God gave me a big push that day and said, you do it. So I did, not even knowing how to do it.
On August 31st, Sheila Caruso-Person from Lafayette created a Facebook page called Feed Linemen. Tell us where you are so we can bring you food and water. In just a week, the page has grown to 25,000 members. Many of the line workers' family members share what their loved ones need.
And they're basically like, my husband hasn't eaten, or my husband hasn't had his clothes washed and a shower.
Louisiana stepped up.
It brings me to tears sometimes, touches my heart. But I know that's what Louisiana people do.
People are basically going, I have 50 lunches made, drop your pin where you're located at and let us come meet you.
This couple gets it. They needed a place to stay when they lost their Chalmette home in Katrina. And Christopher works in the telecommunications industry and has worked on lines before.
They said, man, you used to do this. I'm like, I did. So I know what y'all are feeling. So, it's been real fun.
When Summer found the Feed Lineman page, she posted, any linemen that need a shower or clothes washed, message me. And they did.
Our families enjoyed it. Our, kids love them.
Neighbors are helping too by donating food, laundry detergent, socks.
We have chips, we have everything.
And Wednesday night, the linemen received a Louisiana thank you when a Jeep club threw them a parade after work.
They gave the guys beers, they did beads.
Helping the linemen seen more as heroes after the storm. Erica Ferrando, Eyewitness News.
I mean, I can't be the only one who has goosebumps right now watching that. That is so incredible. They have another surprise coming tonight. Someone donated a water slide for them so they can cool off and have a little fun after another long day of trying to get our power back on. And we thank them. Well, WWL-TV and the New Orleans Saints are partnering with the United Way of Southeast Louisiana to make sure that the essential supplies get to people impacted by Ida.
Yeah, the nonprofit has been holding distributions across the region, and right now they are looking for donations of water and sports drinks, baby formula, toiletries, and recovery supplies like garbage bags and cleaning products. If you'd like to donate, text the word GIVE to 504-529-4444. You can also find details on donation drop-off locations, distribution spots, and more by scanning this QR code with your smartphone camera. A link will pop up for you to click on. Well, we've also posted a link on our website, WWLTV.com. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Our cold front moved through earlier this morning, and immediately the dew points started falling. You could kind of feel the difference. Heard some folks complain it was still hot today. Well, yeah, we were in the upper 80s, but we're still in the summer. Cold fronts can only do so much this far south. Dew points coming down, though, was huge. Dew points had been more in the low, mid, even at times some upper 70s. So 50s and low 60s is a huge relief. Now, during the day, yes, we can still get into the mid, upper 80s, no question. But once the sun goes down with clear skies and dry air, we should begin to feel those temperatures dropping rather quickly. And with the lower humid air in place, it is going to feel a whole lot nicer by this evening. Winds out of the north at 8 miles an hour. It's been a light wind. May see those winds kind of pick up a little bit. It takes a cold front to see our high temperatures actually get to right where they're supposed to be. And our morning low, as I said, once that front moved on through, the drier air started moving in immediately, and our low of 73 degrees is below the average. So that at least was, again, a welcome relief. No rain on radar, and we are quiet on satellite. You can see some of the clouds that kind of passed through, even those weren't very much, with the front kind of surging in early this morning, and immediately that drop in humidity could be felt. Now temperatures, again, did get into the mid-upper 80s. It is still summertime. We still have that high sun angle, and it's easy to get our temperatures into the 80s, but we avoided the 90s despite the fact that we saw all-day sunshine. And winds out of the north, maybe a little breeze up in Slidell, lighter winds out at Kennerbell Chase at 12 miles an hour, but we should start to see those winds picking up a little bit once the sun goes down. So a bit of a chop expected on the lake as well as the offshore waters. And dew points 50s and 60s, that is going to hang around for the next couple of days. Dew points up into North Louisiana have dropped into the 40s and low mid 50s. This is a welcomed air mass and more earlier for the season in terms of when we would start getting the more real cold fronts. And there are only so many kinds of fronts that we have. So people will say, well, it's not really cold air mass. Well, it's not warm. It's not a stationary. It's not an occluded front. It's a cold front. And it did help to bring down the humidity. And again, with the lower humid air on the way and continuing to move in, it is going to be a bit cooler during the overnight. And by wake-up time tomorrow morning, with clear skies and dew points in the mid-50s and low 60s, that will allow temperatures to drop into the 60s, probably in the 70s, though, around the metro area. And that dry air hang around into Saturday morning. Once again, a very dry start to the day and all day Saturday. By late Saturday night and into early Sunday morning, the Gulf moisture will start to surge back in thanks to a return flow of a southeasterly and southerly wind. But wake up time tomorrow morning, low 60s, actually a bit of a cool feel to the air. And even in the metro area, lower 70s will feel very nice. Outside of the city, though, expect to see some locations dropping into the mid and upper 60s. Frontal boundary is down to our south. May see some thunderstorms along that front, but well offshore as the dry air takes hold. By late Saturday and into Sunday, we will start to see that moisture surging back over us, and maybe a few spotty showers and thunderstorms possible Sunday. The better chance of rain is going to be early into next week, but less humid through the weekend. Even on Sunday, as we'll start to feel some of that moisture coming back in, it's not the typical summertime muggies. We'll start to feel more of that during the week. Spotty showers possible Sunday, but a better chance of rain early next week as we will be watching a tropical wave. As we've mentioned, we are still very much in the heart of hurricane season. In fact, tomorrow, September 10th, is the climatological peak of hurricane season, which means we start to see the frequency go down. But through September, here's October 1st, and really through the mid part of October, we are still very much in the busiest part of the season. So we are not done yet, unfortunately. And watching the tropics, there are really no immediate threats out there. There is one wave not doing much of anything at the moment, sitting over Honduras, but models saying that it will probably drift over say the southern part of the Yucatan into Mexico and eventually emerge into the Bay of Campeche. The chance of development in the next 5 days is still fairly low right now at only 30%, as the models are not really aggressive with developing anything. But what will happen is this wave is going to send moisture our way, despite or regardless of any kind of organization with that system. It does look like that will start sending that tropical moisture back over us and increasing clouds and rainfall. And notice the Euro Monday at noon, maybe a kind of close low circulation moving in around Brownsville Monday at noon per the GFS. Just a lot of rainfall, so neither of them are very aggressive with developing to anything. And even if something were to develop, big ridge of high pressure is going to kind of elongate itself over the south, and that's going to send kind of a westerly surge over the Gulf of Mexico, which would likely keep anything that tries to form over the western Gulf, maybe along the coast of Mexico or Texas. So not a threat to us. Beautiful weather over the next couple of days, and even Sunday, not a bad day, starting to get a little more humid, start to see some more clouds and even a few spotty showers. A wetter and cloudy a couple of days for Monday and Tuesday, and then back to our typical scattered showers and thunderstorms as we head into the middle to end of next week.
Thank you so much. After Hurricane Ida, the need to rebuild homes is huge.
That's right. Heather Fontaine introduces us to one musician who says the storm is yet another setback after an already tough year.
This part of the right here was the first part of the ceiling that fell. So every 30 minutes, that piece was falling.
It's the house Kerry Hunter has called home for 20 years.
It just destroyed it.
The wind and rain from Hurricane Ida making his living room unlivable. Holes in the roof, faces smashed, his table shattered by a falling ceiling.
Sitting right here on this couch on the right-hand side, and the first piece of sheetrock that was right here, bam, come down.
Did it hit you?
It hit me. It hit me.
Kerry took cover downstairs with his wife and mother-in-law. It wasn't until several hours later that the damage and devastation set in.
But this is like materialistic stuff, so you can regroup.
The last year has already been hard on Kerry because of the pandemic. He's a musician who goes by Fat Man, a drummer for the New Orleans Nightcrawlers.
A week, you normally have 10 or 12 gigs, but you just got one gig.
The band received a Grammy earlier this year. He never got around to framing the certificate.
When I came back home, this is what the first thing that I was looking for. It's like, instead of going forward, you're going backwards.
But Kerry is keeping the faith.
This damage, everything over here is damaged, but when you walk over here, this is the kitchen, and it's nothing wrong with the kitchen. It's everything is normal in the kitchen.
His bedroom also left without a scratch.
We still here, just got to rebuild.
This drummer staying upbeat, knowing he's got life and love.
It is what it is.
Heather Fontaine.
You deal with the situation.
Eyewitness News.
And Hunter says that he is waiting for the insurance company to come before he starts to clean up his home.
It is so hard on everybody, and we hope he gets some help soon. We'll be right back after this short break. Federal employees and contractors will now have to get the COVID-19 vaccine. It's the most sweeping requirement yet in the U.S. That policy affects about 100 million people. President Biden also announced that any company with 100 employees or more will have to require either a COVID shot or weekly testing. That applies to about 80 million workers. Companies could be fined up to $14,000 per violation. And we are still keeping an eye on COVID-19 numbers in Louisiana as we're still recovering from Ida. As of noon today, the Department of Health says there are about 1,800 COVID-19 patients in the hospital statewide. That's a few dozen fewer than yesterday. More than 4,900 new cases were reported just in the last day and 77 new deaths. A U.S. official confirms to CBS News that the Taliban has agreed to allow 200 people, Americans and other foreigners, to leave Afghanistan.
That official says the U.S. is pressing the militant group to continue to release more people this week as cities across the country start grassroots efforts to help the evacuees. Natalie Brand reports from Capitol Hill.
The first international passenger flight carrying Americans and other foreigners departed from Kabul to Doha Thursday, more than a week after the last American troops left the country.
Certainly today's departure of this Qatar Airways charter was a welcome step. It is certainly something that we were glad to see happen.
The flight marked progress in talks between the U.S. and Afghanistan's new Taliban leaders since the group took power last month.
This is not a favor we need or seek from the Taliban. This is a commitment that the Taliban has made.
Earlier this week, Secretary of State Blinken said it was believed there were around 100 Americans still wanting to leave the country. It's unclear how many Afghan allies will be able to get out. The Biden administration estimates around 65,000 vulnerable Afghans will be brought to the U.S. by the end of the month. That includes some unaccompanied children. This family cried tears of joy inside Houston's Bush Airport Wednesday.
I was very worried about all of them.
4 of the younger children were orphaned when their mother died in last month's terror attack as the family waited to board a flight to the U.S. It took 2 weeks, but their aunt and cousins were finally located in Texas.
We are sad and happy at the same time because they made it here. That's why we're happy, but we're sad because their mom couldn't make it.
In Indiana, this organization is working with the Defense Department to provide essentials like diapers and toys for Afghan refugees now living in the U.S.
They've left their country, and for all intents and purposes, they'll never go back.
A much-needed fresh start in a new country. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Washington.
And CBS News confirms another Qatar Air charter flight out of Kabul may be in the works tomorrow.
We'll be right back right after this short break.
11 more storm-related deaths were reported in Louisiana yesterday, bringing the state total to 26. Lower Jefferson Parish was another area that was hit hard by Ida, and power is still out for almost everyone there. David Begnaud shows us how recovery is going.
You can practically walk on water where Bayou Barataria separates Jean Lafitte from Barataria, Louisiana. That grass is marsh, thrust in by Hurricane Ida's storm surge, which pushed a barge into the only bridge connecting these two communities. That knocked out the bridge, sunk the barge, and cut off the 1,200 residents in Barataria.
When I get up to...
We went to meet one of them.
Nice to meet you, sir.
It's nice to talk to somebody.
It's nice to talk to somebody.
My dog won't speak to me anymore.
Robert Gonzalo's home has been surrounded by floodwater for the last 10 days. He's lived here for 42 years, and Hurricane Katrina was the only one he evacuated for.
I was expecting water, but I wasn't expecting this kind of water.
Why didn't you leave for this one?
Good question. Why didn't I? I don't know. Me and my son decided to stay. You know, just hang around.
His home is 8 feet off the ground, and the water came within a foot of flooding it. Just down the street from here, about a mile, is where we met 77-year-old Earl Trish.
Holding this, holding that for more than 3 hours, keeping the wind and rain down somewhat. The wind would blow so hard it would blow me back.
His home is high and dry. His wife evacuated, but he refused to. He had a heart attack 5 months ago, and when we met him, he had just run out of his heart medication. So his neighbor Lisa went and got it for him.
Got you some water, got your prescriptions. That's the main thing I'm after.
Just yesterday, the state of Louisiana reported 11 new storm-related deaths, and they said that 9 of those were heat-related. 9. No power means no air conditioning, and the good folks in Barataria across the bayou have been told you probably won't get your power back until at least the end of the month. David Begnaud, CBS News, this side of the bayou in Jean Lafitte, Louisiana.
You know, if there is any relief for the folks without air conditioning, is that it is a bit less humid. Now, during the day today, yes, it still got hot, highs in the mid-upper 80s, but that is normal for this time of year. What is not normal is the fact that it is so drier, and that's in terms of the low humidity, but also our rainfall. Now, tonight, it will actually be getting a little cooler, especially on the North Shore, where temperatures by wake-up time will be in the low 60s. Same for Saturday morning. Now, in the city and near the water temperatures are in the 80s, so probably staying in the lower 70s. But if you're away from the city on the South Shore, you'll too get into the 60s overnight. That dry air hanging around Friday and Saturday. We'll start to feel the humidity and even a few spotty showers returning by Sunday. Then we're going to be watching a tropical wave moving into the western Gulf. Right now, doesn't look like it'll be anything organized, but even if it did, that would stay to our west. But we are likely to get the moisture from it and rainfall Monday and Tuesday, and we're back to our scattered rain chances as we get toward Wednesday and Thursday.
All right, at least we get a tiny bit of a break, so that's good.
Tiny relief for a few days.
Teeny tiny. All right, thank you. Well, we don't have to tell you that the last few weeks have been stressful. A Category 4 hurricane hit Louisiana during a pandemic. It is completely normal to feel scared and hopeless, frustrated, or even angry.
And this morning, Ashley Martinez, licensed clinical social worker with Oxnard, talked with Eric Paulson, and she had some advice for getting through the post-storm period.
Accept the help is one of the biggest things I say. You know, take that hot meal in line.
Yeah.
Ask for the discounted hotel room if you're not here. Let people help you apply for all of the, the aid. Go to your resources, go to the cooling centers, take the transportation. That is going to be something that is going to be really important for you. And right now, we can't be above worrying, like, if we're going to accept help. Sometimes we feel like it makes us weak, but it doesn't. This is the time to do it.
And there is a round-the-clock hotline you can call for mental health crises related to natural disasters. It's 1-800-985-5990 at any time of the day to talk with a trained crisis counselor. And they asked, I say this in Spanish, I'm just reading it. Se puede oprimir dos para español.
I think you nailed it.
There you go.
You can also reach them via text. It's super easy. Just text "Talk with Us," all one word, to 66746.
All right, that is our news at 5. Thank you for joining us.
We're going to see you right back here shortly for the Eyewitness News at 6. And until then, have a great night.
Live from WWL-TV, this is the Eyewitness News at 6.
Well, good evening, everyone. I'm Karen Swenson. And I'm Cherise Gibson. Thank you so much for watching our continuing coverage in the aftermath of Hurricane Ida.
All right, let's start it off with some of today's post-storm headlines. Entergy Louisiana fell short of its promise to restore power to 90% of Jefferson Parish by last night. This morning, they reported 46,000 were still without power. That's about 78% of the parish. In New Orleans, the Sewage and Water Board says sewer operations are back to normal. That means you can now wash your clothes and use your dishwashers again. And a reminder regarding the roads. Late tonight, I-10 will be closed in both directions from Loyola Drive to Causeway for utility work. The interstate will be closed from midnight to 3 a.m. At the airport, things are also getting a little bit back to normal. They had 65 departure flights scheduled today. That is up from just 28 on Sunday. Well, Lafourche Parish officials gave an update today about the power situation there and their recovery efforts. Maria Aguilera has the latest. Do we have that story? All right, we're going to move on then. Cherise?
Yeah, it looks like they're having some issues. So some of those who live
I'll tell you, some of those who live in the senior living apartments around the city that were shut down were able to return home today. All right, I am now told that we do have the story coming out of Lafourche Parish. Let's watch.
In Lafourche Parish, most residents still don't have power back. Now here in Thibodaux, about 50% of power has been restored. However, the rest of the parish only has 5% of power back up. Now in the coming weeks, they're expecting more linemen to be on the ground working. Most residents in Lafourche Parish still with no power, nearly 2 weeks since Hurricane Ida ravaged southeast Louisiana.
Energy is still holding firm with that September 29th date for most of Lafourche Parish to have power, and we're going to hold them to that.
Parish President Archie Chasson gave an update along with other officials on the recovery efforts.
So we already have 22,800 residents who have registered with FEMA and about $11.1 million that's already been approved for direct payouts to help them.
In the coming weeks, Entergy expects to have 2,000 linemen in Lafourche to get transmission back. Chasson also shared a message of hope.
As hard hit as we were from Golden Meadow to the houses that flooded in La Rose and to Zalman's and Kramer, you have a commitment from everybody standing up here that we're going to put the pieces back together and we're going to take care of our community. And we're going to do that as fast and hard as we can.
Residents like Vic Matherm are hoping power is restored sooner.
This has been the worst.
He has been running this business for 40 years. Since Ida hit, he spends about 8 hours a day running his generator to save food in the freezer. He can't open his doors because his workers have suffered damage to their homes.
How much money you put in the gasoline to save, a certain amount of food. So we'll just have to play it by ear, I guess.
He says he doesn't know how long he can keep this up.
All my workers, they have problems, and you can't do it alone. So that's the problem there. You've got to have help. You can't do it by yourself.
On a regular Thursday, this place would have been busy, but right now it's just him hoping he doesn't lose too much.
We've had a rough go of it, but we'll fight back. We've done it before. We're not that soft yet.
Entergy expects to have power back up for most residents on the 29th. In the meantime, the fire department is encouraging everyone to practice safety measures as they're running their generators. In Lafourche Parish, Maria Aguilera, Eyewitness News.
Well, some of those who live in the senior living apartments around the city that were shut down were able to return home today. Just a week ago, the city evacuated the people living in 10 buildings, sending them to state shelters when the aftermath of Hurricane Ida made the conditions unlivable. But it was a very difficult time for the families of 5 people who did not make it through those hot conditions. McFerris has that story.
We heard from the city health director days ago that 5 people were found deceased in these senior living apartments. Well, today we got to hear from a family member. Myron Jones was only 65. Originally from Memphis, he loved New Orleans.
He was a person that never met a stranger. One of those people that had the gift of gab.
His sister, Deborah Streeter, could not reach him at the Christopher Inn for days.
Saturday afternoon, I was driving my car and the call came through. And there was an officer with the New Orleans Police Department saying that they had found my brother deceased at his apartment. Oh my gosh. Oh.
She flew in from Memphis to get his important papers from his apartment.
When I came in, I had to strike out on my own. So it's a better way to communicate with people. I mean, the management never called me back. They never called me back.
This all comes on a day when residents of 9 of the 10 homes could finally move back in after the city said Ida aftermath conditions made their apartments unlivable, with management not there.
We need somebody with us all the time. I was glad to hear that from now on that they will have management in the building at all times, which we didn't have before.
At least one building, St. John Birchman's Manor, was not ready today.
How is that doing me a favor by letting me back a day earlier when they didn't get me away from here early enough? And now I'm invited back with nothing to eat.
Now, I just talked to the coroner of Orleans Parish a short while ago, and he explained why family members weren't allowed to come into the coroner's office to see their loved ones, but he said they could see them in the funeral homes. And right now, he is saying that there is no cause of death determined in each of those 5 deaths. Reporting from the Marigny, Meg Farris, Eyewitness News.
Well, we have an update tonight on Metairie Towers, the complex that received so much damage during Ida. The building is no longer livable.
Yeah, those who live there are now having to vacate their homes. A majority of the residents are senior citizens who are left wondering where are they going to go. Bill Churchwell has that story.
Outside the storm-ravaged Metairie Towers, residents returning to the complex are being met with signs telling them to enter at their own risk. Hurricane Ida peeling the roof off the condo building, sending seniors and other residents out of their homes in the middle of the storm. Rain pouring into the units.
Would only let you in the unit for 10 minutes, and that was the first time I saw it.
Frustrated condo owners like Sandra Chapman are left to deal with the aftermath. She called the complex home for the last 5 years. Now told she will have to box up and vacate.
I walked in like I'd left it. Again, there was water damage, and as I'm moving things, I'm finding water damage. My adjuster was with me.
Honestly, it's caused more chaos and more damage than what I even had before.
Michelle Saunier is another resident we found trying to pile everything that could fit into the back of her car.
Everything, including our appliances. We've been told we have to remove refrigerators, ovens, stoves, pretty much anything that is not bolted down or built in.
She tells us property management has instructed residents of the 219 units they have until September 27th to move their belongings in order for repair work to begin. It's something that could last up to a year. Despite the rush to move out, she's more concerned for the number of seniors who are also searching for other living arrangements.
From what I've seen, the elderly people are having a really tough time getting access into the building and even getting anything out that they might need.
Now, I did speak with a woman who identified herself as the property manager here. She tells us that she would not be able to provide us with a statement right now, but she did say that for those residents who are having a difficult time finding another place to go, that they are helping in that relocation process. Bill Churchwell, Eyewitness News.
Well, Whitney Plantation in Wallace, Louisiana saw significant damage after Hurricane Ida. Known for its interpretation of life through the eyes of the formerly enslaved, it has now grown in popularity, counting more than 100,000 visitors. Today, photographer Adam Kopis and I traveled to Wallace to see that damage firsthand.
You could tell that there was an intense storm that had passed through this site.
Our tour of Whitney Plantation begins at the end.
This church was built by freedmen and women in 1870.
1870? Wow. Antioch Baptist Church is the last stop as you tour the grounds where the formerly enslaved once lived and worked.
The door has been completely ripped off of its hinges.
The damage is evident. The 19th century stoves at the entrance of the church covered in plaster and debris. A statue of a formerly enslaved little girl, just one of the children of Whitney, damaged.
This little person was completely on the floor, so the plaster fell down on her and knocked her off the bench.
It's a somber walkthrough for Dr. Joy Banner, who is a descendant of the formerly enslaved at Whitney.
1870, this was built on limited resources, and the fact that though there is damage, it's standing.
A testament to the impactfulness of her ancestors' work and why she knew as Hurricane Ida approached where she could go for safety.
You sheltered in the big house,
yes,
as the storm passed over.
Yes.
Why was that even a thought? Like, you know, you had that conversation that you, and it was your sister, your family?
Me, my sister, and my parents, my mom and dad, who were in their 70s. And before I had joked that, you know, if for some reason, if I stay for a storm and it gets too bad, then I know this house has been here since 1790. The bottom in particular is like a fortress, so I would just go and shelter there. And it was like, ha ha ha,
Hurricane Ida intensified, and soon there was no other option. Dr. Banner gathered her family in the unlikeliest of places.
Even though the space was a place of security, it's still a big house. Can't say that I ever felt like I belonged here.
After sheltering for 16 to 17 hours inside the big house, Banner says the grounds were in ruins. Some of the slave cabins damaged.
You see, I was pushed off of its foundation and this part of it just collapsed. Wow.
And others destroyed.
Whoa.
When I
my goodness
saw the morning after the storm and saw the rubble that's now these two cabins, I was speechless. I was heartbroken.
But two cabins stood strong. Though damaged, Dr. Banner is thankful they're still standing.
So these two cabins are original to this plantation, this site. The cabins that we have on site, they were brought in from other plantations, so they were immensely important as well.
Yes.
But these two structures in particular are, to me, the most important structures on site.
A testament to the craftsmanship and skill of the formerly enslaved. Built by their hands, they weathered the storm.
I would have been really, really, really hurt and very distraught if that big house had stood, but these cabins didn't.
Understood.
And Dr. Banner says the Whitney Plantation is closed as they survey that damage. In the meantime, there is a fundraiser to assist in the recovery efforts there. If you would like to donate or to learn more, just go to the Whitney Plantation's website. We'll have a link on our website, wwltv.com.
What an incredible story, Cherise.
Yes, and it's a very educational place for a lot of people. Again, this is a place where you can get the perspective from the formerly enslaved that were on the plantation and lived there.
Amazing that she's a descendant of the very people who were enslaved there.
And they, her family helped to build that plantation.
You know, her family will help build it back too. Yes. All right. After every storm, the community always reminds us what Louisiana is made of.
Shortly after we brought you the story yesterday of a Ponchatoula woman whose house got buried under trees, a removal company jumped into action. Allison Basil is live at the home where crews worked all day long.
Yes, all day, and look what they did. Take a look at this transformation. Now, yesterday, trees covered Sarah Hall's backyard and rooftop, but as you can see, that is all gone just 24 hours after we gave you a look at the damage. But as Hall she keeps on giving to help her neighbors push past Ida's aftermath. When a call for help goes out, neighbors in Louisiana waste no time getting to work. Tree removal crews showed up at Sarah Hall's house Thursday, ready to clean up Ida's mess.
I didn't expect it, not that quick.
For 10 days, huge trees that toppled over during the storm sat on Hall's roof, shed, carport, and just about everywhere else. Now on day 11, Hall's fallen forest is starting to look like home again.
How long did you think you were going to be under trees?
It would have been here until it would have been here.
Minutes after Hall's call for help aired, Ziegler's tree removal service reached out.
The lady told me, she says, we'll be there at 7 in the morning, and they were here.
The crews tackled log after log, at times ripping chainsaws more than 15 feet in the air.
And I've been watching out of windows to stay out of their way, other than to give them a gallon of tea earlier, because they needed it.
During the stress of cleaning, Hall found peace behind her stove.
The kitchen is my domain, you know.
The peace comes from knowing her neighbors aren't going hungry.
People gotta eat, girl.
Wednesday, Hall cooked a pot of jambalaya for her neighbors. On Thursday, ham sandwiches.
They know if they need something, and I can do it, I'm here.
Hall says she'd do it for anyone, and says the tree crews are keeping that neighborly spirit flowing through Ponchatoula.
Relief, gratefulness. Check off the list.
Now those hard-working crews spent about 8 hours here today from 7 a.m. until around 4 or 5 getting everything cleaned up. Live in Ponchatoula, Allison Basil, Eyewitness News.
Allison, before you go, you're coming in to help us from out of state. What are you taking away from Louisianians?
Well, I'll tell you, my first job was in Louisiana, so that was about almost 3 hours ago now. I was in Alexandria, but I know just the kind of people that are here, and I've been through a few storms, nothing like what you guys just went through, but Louisianans, they're there to help each other, and that's why I was eager to come back. It's just been great these last 2 days so far.
Well, we're grateful to you, too. Thank you so much, and stick with us. We'll have more right after the break.
Including a cold front that's moved in.
Gorgeous day today. Maybe it didn't feel like it to everyone. It was still hot as highs got into the upper 80s, but it was definitely less humid. And hopefully everyone was able to appreciate that. And if you didn't today, you got tomorrow and Saturday. But when you'll really feel it is when the sun goes down. Our evenings will be getting a little milder and our mornings will be cool, especially in the north. So 87 degrees, which is still below or near average. 59-degree dew point, though, that is not average for early September. Humidity is only at 39%. Winds out of the north at 13 miles an hour. Today's high, it took a cold front to finally see our highs right at average for this time of year. And our morning low, we did drop down to 73 degrees, so certainly some low 70s in the metro area, maybe some upper 60s. And sunny skies across the area, as you can see from the visible satellite, that little surge of clouds that moved in and moved through with the cold front didn't bring any rainfall with it, and we did need a day to dry out. We're still in the 80s outside, but these temperatures should be dropping pretty quick as the sun goes down. And I mentioned that we should start to see our winds picking up. They've now been gusting up to about 17 miles an hour, kind of not windy, but maybe a little bit of a chop on the lake and the offshore waters with dew points. 50s and low 60s does make it feel a little bit more comfortable. And the good news is this dry air is going to hang around for the next couple of days. Dew points started falling early this morning. If you were up before sunrise, we had dew points still in the mid 70s, and then they started falling through the day, and will continue to drop a little bit more during the overnight period, and we'll likely see 50s on both sides of the lake, which with clear skies will allow us to get on the cool side. And that dry air hangs around through Saturday, and then by Saturday night into early Sunday, we'll begin to feel the muggies start to come back as winds will be back off of the Gulf from the southeast. Tomorrow morning, here the forecasted lows will be in the low 60s on the North Shore, 60s and low 70s south of the lake. So everyone will be a little cooler than average, and we could call it cool on the North Shore by early tomorrow morning. Front is now south of the coastline, may see some showers and thunderstorms developing along this front, but that's all going to be well south of our coastline. However, as I said, it'll be short-lived. By late Saturday, Sunday, the moisture starts to return, and we may start to see a few isolated or spotty showers during the day. We'll also be watching into early next week a tropical wave. Now, at the moment, models not very aggressive with developing anything, and they have been hinting at some kind of surge of tropical moisture headed our way, and that really looks to be all it is at the moment. We've seen the tropics can do some crazy things, but at the moment, we're looking at a low percent chance as this wave over Honduras starts to move into the Bay of Campeche and Western Gulf. But that surge of tropical moisture will start to make its way by Sunday, more so into early next week, and could bring with it some fairly heavy rainfall depending upon exactly where the bulk of that moisture goes. At the moment, it looks to be more Texas and perhaps even southwestern Louisiana, as neither the Euro or the GFS is very aggressive with any development, as it does look like anything that were to even form would likely be kept into the Western Gulf due to the fact that we've got this big ridge that'll kind of dominate much of the southeast and really push anything that does try and form off to the Western Gulf. So we'll be watching it, but right now it looks like it'll just increase our rain chances by early next week. But for the next several days, drier, no rainfall, less humid. Our mornings will be cooler, and then we're back into the warm, humid air by next week.
Alvin Kamara said it best this afternoon. The Saints are training out of town, playing a home game out of town, giving up one of the best home field advantages in the NFL, and bottom line, as Kamara said, no one cares. There are no sympathy points in the NFL. The Saints went through another Fort Worth practice today. Remember, the Packers' loss last year really defined the rest of the season. It kept the Saints from getting home field advantage in the playoffs. Kamara was asked today how much he'll look at that tape.
Kind of look at it, but personally, I don't really care about last year's game. It's a new season, new personnel, new. I mean, it's new. It's a different year. So we look at it somewhat game plan wise, but I'm looking at it as a new season, new team, new energy, and then I mean it's week one, so we got to do what we got to do.
I love listening to Alvin Kamara. Now, disturbing news on the Saints injury report today. Wide receiver Tre'Quan Smith, who we expected to start, did not practice today with a hamstring issue. Smith did practice yesterday, did not today, so he's a guy we'll definitely keep an eye on tomorrow. And no Ken Crawley today. Expect rookie Paulson Adebo to play a lot Sunday against the Packers. And don't forget, join Ricardo, Brooke, our Saints analyst, Nick Underhill, and me for our Eye on the Black and Gold special. It is 5 minutes away, 6:30 here on Channel 4. Back with more in a minute.
And that is all for us tonight at 6. Thanks for watching.
But stick with us, our Eye on the Black and Gold special, getting you ready for Sunday's regular season kicks off. That's coming up next right here on Channel 4.
get ready for the unknown. The venue is just weird, a home opener in Jacksonville after 2 weeks of training in Dallas. And who knows what the Jameis Winston era will bring. The one thing we do know is this guy is one of the greatest ever and still doing it at an elite level. The Saints, though, have plenty of elite talent too, but also a mountain of unknown. And that's how we start the 2021 season.
From Channel 4, this is the Eye on the Black and Gold season opening special.
Sean Payton will be tested this season like never before. Drew Brees is retired, and the post-Brees era begins Sunday. I'm Doug Mouton. Welcome to our Eye on the Black and Gold season opening special. Take a break from insurance claims and yard cleanup. For the next 30 minutes, we'll talk football and what you need to know if you're thinking about a last-minute drive to Jacksonville. Ricardo Lacomp joins us live outside the Superdome, the newest member of our